WWF In Your House 14, Revenge of the Taker. And boy, howdy does he get his revenge. I hope you like your pallbearer well done, if you know what I'm saying. He gets set on fire. Just in general, we're in a weird era of wrestling. You got the realism of Bret Hart and Stone Cold. You got the red hot action of Undertaker and Mankind, but also the rockabilly's here. Lots of stuff to get into with the matches, but also a lot of stuff to get into in terms of the backstage scuttlebutt heavy episode on the way. So if you want your butt scuttled, we'll keep your butt there. And listen, stinks, to the Apron Bump Podcast.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started.
What's up, everybody? Howdy. Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I, of course, am your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's blood pressure is okay. Hope your taxes are filed. Hope you're ready for a hoot of an episode. In Your House 14, baby. Revenge of the Taker. This is my first time delving into this show, as is the case with pretty much all these shows from this era, which, by the way, speaking of this era, before we get into it, if you're new to the Apron Bump, maybe you're just discovering me now, hey, we got a whole archive full of these episodes chronologically living through this timeline. So if you want to relive all of the WWF, WCW, and ECW shows from mid-94 on, you want to come along that journey? Well, I suggest you either click the link in the description, it'll take you there, or you can go to apronbump.com, you can go to the episodes tab, and you can select Wrestling Wars of the 90s, and that'll bring you to all of the episodes I've covered from those three promotions. And speaking of those three promotions, make sure you stick around to the end of the episode, where the hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues, where we pit WWF against WCW and ECW, and we see which company is doing the best as of this point in time, as of April 20th, 1997. We'll look at the best, the worst, who's doing good, who's doing not so good. We'll grade this show as a whole, and we'll get into it. Whichever company has the most points at the end of the year will receive a purchase from myself of a championship belt from that respective company. And as you can see by the Intercontinental title behind me, WWF was the hardest in 1996. Who will be hardest in 1997? Well, you have to stay tuned once again and find out. But we're not there yet. We got a lot to talk about with this show. Gee willikers. I mean, this show is almost the worst show I've ever seen. I've covered a lot of dog shit on this show, on this old Apron Bump. Gonna have actually a lot of bad shows coming up. It's just how the timelines have intermingled. We got some TNA business that's not going to be good. So if you like bad wrestling, you're in for a treat here in these next few weeks. But that being said, this show was not an all-time bad show based on at least one, maybe two matches that saved it. Definitely one all-timer on this show. I'll let you figure out what that is. If you know what the card is, you could probably guess. But the main event is Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, kind of a hidden match in their history. Everybody talks about either WrestleMania or Survivor Series 96. You don't hear a lot of people talk about Bret Hart versus Steve Austin from In Your House 14, so it'll be interesting to get into that. We got the new WWF champion, The Undertaker, defending against Mankind. So that feud's continuing, but some good stuff there. We'll get into it. Like I said, we got Rockabilly versus Jesse James. So we got, in a way, the birth of the New Age Outlaws. Honky Tonk Man's there. That's the whole thing. Tag team titles are on the line. Road Warriors are here. Rocky Maivia. We got Nation, Ahmed Johnson business on the show. There is a lot of stuff happening on screen, but also we get into this stuff with what's up with Sid at this point? Is he gone? Is he not? Is he playing softball? Does he pitch? Does he catch? We get into all of it and so much more. Vader, by the way, we're fresh off the Kuwait trip. Vader was stuck in Kuwait. He abused a radio or a talk show host. I mean, there's so much to get into. We probably talk more about the surrounding issues rather than the actual bell to bell stuff from this show, which didn't offer a lot. But who is we? I keep saying we. Who is we? Well, none other than Ryan from the Count Out Wrestling Network. Go check it out. I'll put all of his information in the description below. Gets into, obviously, professional wrestling, but he'll talk about the current product. He does live shows with various guests. Also has some good Patreon series, one which I was a part of, where he gets into Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame inductees. It's a retrospective of very different wrestlers' careers. Are they worthy of a Hall of Fame accolade or not? I was fortunate enough to come on and talk about Kevin Owens / Kevin Steen and whether or not he was Hall of Fame worthy. So that's very interesting stuff that he's doing. It's a fun time. It's a fun listen. Also covering John Cena's career as a retrospective. There's a lot. He has a lot of different things he does. He explains it better than I ever could at the end of the episode. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But he's a good boy. Go check him out. At least give him a follow, subscribe. Check out the Count Out Wrestling Podcast. And check out me. Join the Discord in the description. If you have not already, follow me on all the social medias at Apron Bump all across the board. Hey, let's get into this episode, shall we? WWF In Your House 14, Revenge of the Taker. With myself and Ryan from the Count Out Wrestling Podcast. I guess right out the gate. Thoughts on the show? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I mean, it's kind of, I guess,
It's a bad show. It's a bad show, Ryan. Don't sugarcoat it.
I think it's thumbs in the middle. The first, I guess, hour is a lot of like not fine to not good. And then I think the last two matches are really good. Obviously, the main event, Austin and Bret Hart. I think it's really good. I don't think it's as good, obviously, as their previous two encounters. I think, to be fair to that, I think it's twofold. One, it is Bret Hart coming into the match supposedly with a knee injury, and then gets has surgery on his knee after this match. That get the whole Hart Foundation with him wobbling out and crutches and everything.
Right. That is right.
This is that match. I guess he was coming in, yada. But also, you're coming off of expectations of two great wrestlers in their prime, and not only two wrestlers in their prime, coming off of undoubtedly a, like, if you want to do star ratings, 5-star match of an all-time classic in WrestleMania 13. So, and also knowing that it wasn't the planned match as well, which I guess we might get into as well. I watched, by the way, you probably would have guessed when you guessed it on the ballot last year. I do a lot of research.
Yes.
And so I watched the Monday Night Raws, or the Raw is Wars. The Raws is Wars, the plural.
They're still figuring it out too. They don't know what it is.
Yeah. I watched the 4 episodes prior to In Your House to get a little bit of that build. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but like so much of this card also changed in those 4 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of injuries.
A lot of injuries, a lot of
people walking out,
softball playing.
Is that what it is? So Sid, right? You were referring to Sid earlier. It was supposed to be Sid and Bret.
Yes.
Right. And so this is the point. So I was not watching during this time. So this timeline's a lot of it's new to me. And I've like heard bits and pieces over the years. So is this the part in the timeline where Sid wasn't showing up to play softball?
The belief is yes. He comes back in June, I believe. Okay. I want to say in June or something, June, July. He comes back in the summer, which basically to me that reads, this is the thing where he calls the WWF headquarters set on like Saturday and says, I can't make it. I got a back injury. So he skips Monday Night Raw. The entire episode of Monday Night Raw is them being like, we don't know where Sid is. He might show up. He might not. And then they having to scramble at the last second to get Austin in here. Which presumably that whole thing of like him calling in on the weekend, no one heard the phone call for some reason, or I don't know what, but yeah, so Sid just like kind of disappears. And the fact that it comes in June, to me, that is full softball territory. This guy loves those softballs.
Who doesn't,
at the end of the day. So I fully think, this is Sid's out of here just because he's simply like, I want to play softball. He never really was like a big wrestling fan. I get the impression of he was more of a softball fan than anything. But yeah, because he comes back in June, and then I think he's still in WWF. Is he in WWF by the end of the year? I don't think so.
See, I thought he just left, but I guess he does come back.
He comes back for like a Mankind match, I think. I don't know when, but he definitely comes back this year, 97, I believe in June. I don't know how long he stays. I think by the end of the year he's in WCW. That I'm not entirely positive on.
Right.
But yeah, what a thing that like, but also like, we'll talk about like I guess more matches that got like canceled or changed or whatnot, but like there is like the caveat of the main event being Austin and Bret Hart and being a really good match, but a disappointment compared to WrestleMania 13, I think. But we could have gotten Sid versus Bret Hart, and that match would have been a completely different animal, and I don't think as good as
with an injured Bret Hart. I mean, we saw Sid and Bret at what was it? Is it In Your House late in '96?
Yes,
and that was not great. So I can only imagine that's the ceiling. So it would not have been as good. So it's probably for the best. Unfortunately,
it's an unfortunate thing, but like I assuming it's just the softball. I don't care. I guess it's not an unfortunate thing, but yeah, it's one of those things of like, it's the thing of like, at the end of the day, my feelings of that match specifically. I guess we'll get more into it, but like my feelings of that match specifically are like why it's sometimes tough to. And I imagine you go. I don't know if you go through this, but you probably go through this in some regard. Like watching things in context of the year as you're watching them versus like parachuting in to like random pay-per-views and random whatevers throughout the years. That it's like there's context that you miss. If you just watch In Your House 14 by itself, then you're like, okay, that's not that great. It's middle of the road, fine, bad show maybe, but like. It also had 2 big time matches that they were building up to it completely canceled and changed. So
yeah,
there's a little bit of like, like a modern sense, you think about like, when I was watching the match and thinking about that, and I was thinking about Forbidden Door 1 with AEW and about how that show, if you recall, had so many various issues and injuries and people can't make the shows and all these sort of things that plague the entire buildup. And I think that was a lot worse of a situation than we got here. And also the wrestlers themselves were a lot better in Forbidden Door AEW 2022
a little bit, yeah,
than 1997 WWF. But like that idea of like, like the build up in the context of like, yeah, this show was not great, but it maybe could have been better. Maybe it could have been worse. I'm talking injured Bret Hart versus Sid. So, it's like, I guess I'll take what I can get is the best way I can say it.
Yeah, I think like for sure the injuries and all that stuff definitely threw monkey wrenches in the whole thing. But I can't imagine, like, let's say Sid's healthy. Let's say Farouk's healthy. Yeah. Let's say Bret's healthy. I don't know if that would have summed up to a better show because ultimately... Fair. A lot of the stories that do go through on this show are not, we'll get into it, but like, it's just, I'll put it this way. This show is 5 matches, 2 disqualifications, 1 count out.
Yes.
And then 2 good matches, but one of them has a DQ finish and then honky tonk man's here. The
booking is crazy. The booking is so like, that late 90s of like it has a little bit of that WCW booking as well, where it's just like DQ finishes all over the place. I think there's a count out finish at some point if I'm thinking it correctly.
Yes.
It's
what
just
are
like,
your
it's just like, what are we doing here?
People paid for this show, right? Now it is cheaper than the Big Four or whatever, but people paid for this show. What are your thoughts on non-finishes on a paper? They've gotten away from it, thankfully, in modern times. I don't know. What do you think about that?
To a certain degree.
When they do it though, I feel like it makes more sense and it's more significant.
I think there's a one thing for me is pay-per-view wrestling versus TV wrestling. I'm more okay with it if it's TV wrestling because at the end of the day, TV wrestling is meant to tell the stories in between the pay-per-views, which really should be the big time matches. Now, don't get me wrong. I love big time matches on television on free TV. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, but I think that, if we're doing cheap finishes, DQ stuff on television, then it's not the end of the world. Now, I'm not saying at the same time, I want an overabundance WCW style, every single match on the card. I don't want that either. I think it is a thing of, maybe one a show at most for television. When it comes to pay-per-view, I feel like, no, I want clean finishes on pay-per-views. I want, unless it is some sort of like B show building to like WrestleMania or something, then I guess I'll take it. You know what I mean? But most of all, I just want these clean finishes. I want great wrestling. I want to see actual proper stuff rather than just continuation of bullshit.
Yeah, or at least like a major storyline pivot, like maybe somebody debuts and causes the DQ, or somebody turns, or like something major, not just a DQ for the sake of nobody wants to lose here. Yeah. So we're going to do a DQ.
It's a time and place thing. Like, yes, it is. You can't do it all the time, but I don't think you can do wrestling without it, without these sort of things, especially like you just said with like major turns. I think you can obviously do it outside the ring, but doing it in the ring can create some sort of special magic as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a time and place for it, but I don't know if the time nor the place is the opening match here.
Agreed.
The tag team titles on the line. We got the champions, the Hart Foundation, Owen Hart and British Bulldog, taking on the Legion of Doom, of course, the Road Warriors. Where do we begin here? So not a ton of backstory here. I mean, the Hart Foundation's been champions for a bit, although they have recently just come together with Bret.
Yes.
I believe that was the build up to this show, or was that before Mania?
Correct. That was, looking at my notes, that was...
If you saw it was between Mania and the show, I would venture to guess, right?
That was Raw is War, March 31st, where they have a breakup title match for the European title.
Yes.
And then it ends in a draw because that Bulldog is about to hit Owen with a chair. Bret comes out, stops him, and then cuts a promo of like, screw the US. They put pit families against each other. Let's come together. Owen doing a terrible job crying.
My brother Bret.
Yeah. Every time. We get a lot of that. But yeah, that's this build up is them. They broke up kind of, and then Owen bringing it back together.
Yeah, because Owen and Bulldog they fought over the European title, of course, and then they were having strife as partners. But then, like you said, Bret brought them back together, and now they're one unit. So, and that's why they come out to Bret's theme song, which I think is interesting.
Yes.
This match here. So, first of all, it's not a long match, but the first chunk of this match is there's nothing happening that at one point they cut to JR and King in their banter at the commentary table.
This match was like, I was like, we're so early in the show, by the way, and JR and King are going at it so hard at a certain point where I'm like, they cut to that moment of the commentary booth, and even Vince is like taken aback, like, whoa, guys, calm down over here.
JR is talking shit about King's crown, then King's like, your hat's on too tight, you stupid idiot, or there's some stupid arguing about hats while not paying attention to the match, which is, who cares?
It might have been this one, but there's like a point where like King like complains about Oklahoman farmers.
Yes.
And he's like, and then JR's like, oh, I wouldn't dunk on farmers. They're great. There's a great job or something. And they start.
We got a presidential debate happening while a tag team title match is happening in the ring.
Felt like it.
But, so like I said, nothing's happening. Then Hawk gets the hot tag. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, the LOD hits like a second rope power slam onto Bulldog.
Yep.
And hits the 1, 2, 3, which felt very abrupt. It felt like, why did that happen? But lo and behold, another ref gets in the ring, talks to the original ref and says that the Road Warriors did not pin the legal man. So the match must be restarted, which I don't even know. So, like after that,
Pure dusty finish here.
It's like important to like have the right people. So it was Hawk that pinned Bulldog, right?
I believe so. Yes, definitely Bulldog. I don't remember if it was Hawk or Animal, but definitely.
Yeah, I can't remember. But they restart the match, but then Bulldog is still the legal person, so he was the legal person.
Yeah, even JR's like, what? Okay, I guess. And he's like, okay, let me set the table. I think Bulldog and Animal or whatever it was are the legal guys, and then Owen adds the time as JR is explaining this. Owen tags out Bulldog, and he's like, okay, now I guess Owen is the legal man. I
think both teams were illegal in the ring. I'm pretty sure
it was all over the place.
I'm pretty sure Hawk pinned Bulldog, and then it restarted, and it was Animal versus or whatever. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Whatever the case is a stupid, unnecessary, in my opinion, false finish. I guess if it was well done, it could have added a little something, but I think it just ruined the flow of the match. Personally,
what was weird? It's weird to get a dusty finish in Connecticut. You know, this is a pure Dusty Rhodes booking move to put the titles in a screwy fashion on one of the team on the babyface, only to take it away. But then like the match itself was like, it was just the Road Warriors dominating Owen and Bulldog for, I don't know how long this match was. It was 10 minutes. So like what, 7-8 minutes? Like pretty much up until that power slam where we get that false finish. The Road Warriors pretty much are dominating Owen and Bulldog here to such a degree that I was like, why is it like this? Why are they? I understand it's
Road Warriors, brother. Yeah,
I get it. But like Owen Hart and Bulldog are like pretty solid. They're your tag team champions
and European champion
and 2-time Slammy Award winners.
Come on.
And it's also like you're building up them as like the next big heel. Like they didn't do like any heel work at all in like those first several minutes. And it wasn't until the match restarted where they take control of the match. They do some heel shenanigans with like referee distractions and I guess hair pulling, probably mohawk pulling. It wasn't until like that moment where they start like doing their heel shenanigans and that's where they pull up the win. But it's just the layout of the match was strange. The booking was a very Southern booked old school match, but like laid out in a weird way that meant to look, have the Road Warriors come out looking great and feel like cheated and robbed, but it didn't really come together exactly for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And on top of all of that, Bret Hart was a little late breaking up the pin.
Yeah, forgot about that.
So what happens is the Road Warriors hit the Doomsday device on Owen, and then one of them makes the pin on Owen, but the ref gets down, and because Bret's going to come in, break up the pin, DQ finish, that's the finish, but the ref gets down to count, but he can't count yet because Bret's not there in time, so he like gets down, he like points at Owen for no reason, or points at one of the Road Warriors.
I think he does like a 1 and then points and then goes for a 2.
Because the second Road Warrior is still in the ring, which that's never in the history of wrestling ever stopped a count from happening. But all of a sudden, I think he just jacked out. He's like, hey, wait a minute. Oh, maybe I guess I'll count. And then Bret's in.
Yeah.
It's just very clunky. All of this is clunky and poorly done and just not structured well, like you said. So
the dusty finish into a DQ finish is wild. What a 10-minute opener of like just a lot of nonsense, basically, at the end of the day. And it was like, and that's the other thing. It wasn't like the work wasn't bad, but it wasn't good, really. It was just like, oh yeah, fine, sort of stuff. Like the best bump was like Owen. They did that replay where Owen's basically like shot out of a cannon through the ropes on the dusty finish.
Yes.
Whereas like that was like the best bump of the entire match. Like the work here is like totally fine, and then it's just a booking shenanigans all over the place.
Yeah, the shenanigans definitely chained them. It's 4 good, capable guys that could have had a good match, but
yes, this should have been better.
It should have been at least okay, but it was not. It was not. But don't worry, Doc Hendricks is here to maybe remedy that, because right after the match, Bulldog and Owen get interviewed by Doc Hendricks. And Doc says something about Stone Cold being here at the arena, and both Bulldog and Owen are surprised that Steve Austin is here, even though he has a scheduled match. So is the implication is that did they like slit his tires or something?
Yeah, there was also, I think, something during the tag match where like they do a picture-in-picture thing with Austin arriving, and then they let the tag team know at the end of the show or at the end of the match that hey, Austin's here. I thought it was twofold. One, especially knowing like later in the show that they eventually like jump Austin in the bathroom. I think something like that of like they tried to stop Austin somehow getting to the show. I don't know. I also thought it was a dig at Sid, possibly, because it was like, oh yeah, we have this main event match, and we'll see if Austin can get here, and then Austin
shows up with a softball bag, has his donut around his bat, like, all right, I'm ready.
That would be perfect. That would be like 2017 Vince. I thought maybe it was perhaps a dig at Sid as well, but it could be because they were shocked. Maybe they were sort of thinking that maybe they did something to them, to Austin.
Right. Well, we'll find out here later in the show. But before that, we got the superstar line. Red hot.
This segment.
What? We got Brian Pillman and Sonny. I guess they're gonna field your phone calls if they can fit in time between having sex with each other, intercourse, which is what is happening. That's what they're implying.
I don't know who is handsier in this segment, Sonny or Brian Pillman. And
there's consent both ways, it seems.
It's like consensual, like they're groping basically over the microphone. And I think they're both with other people at this point in time in his, if you want to go backstage politics, but it's so like awkward groping, but also they're trying to put over like they're both sexy and all these sort of things. Right. It's so weird. My notes just say Sonny and Pillman in the call center. All right. And then I move on.
Eggplant emoji. That's all. Just pubis to pubis contact while telling everybody to call in for the juicy gossip. Did you ever call the superstar line as a I don't know, how old were you when the show was happening?
I was 1, so no.
Oh, so you weren't on the phone?
No, I did. I called in Sonny and I said, "Hey, Sonny, hey, good looking. How's it going? I'm a baby.
Baby needs some milk."
Yeah,
or whatever 1-year-old Ryan says. But
yeah, exactly. But no, I never had the fortune to call in the superstar hotline. I am that young, folks.
Well, hey, good news. If you're still interested in Sonny, she's probably more available now than ever. So
is she getting? I thought I read somewhere that she's like getting out soon or something like that.
I'm sure she will. She'll find a way.
Turns out when you put in Sunny in Google, you just get the weather. Maybe I should be more specific.
Perhaps. Well, sunny days are not ahead in this next match. We got the Intercontinental Championship on the line. We got Rocky Maivia, the champion, defending against Savio Vega with the whole nation in tow. So I believe, was this supposed to be Rocky and Farouk?
I don't know. So the planned match that ends up happening at In Your House 15, I believe, is the 3-on-1 gauntlet match with the Nation Domination versus Ahmed Johnson. That was part of the TV. That was part of the build. It started, well, by the way, also, it started with Johnson putting the challenge to the Nation. And then weeks later, Farouk in Johannesburg, South Africa, challenges Johnson in the same exact way to this gauntlet match. And then at this show, obviously, Johnson accepts it. So I don't know what this match was going to be, if a title match was even going to take place on the show, because Savio and Farouk and a Crush, I guess, all were supposed to be part of a gauntlet match with Ahmed Johnson here.
Well, yeah, like you said, they set that up within this match. It's probably more of the story than the actual match itself. But Farouk comes out late, like after the entrances. He has a sling on, so an injured arm of some sort. He
what did he say? He has I think he like tore something in his shoulder, like a ligament, but then he also has like a perforated lung.
Of course he does.
And a third thing. It was either in this show or the South African show that the Raw right before this show, In Your House, that like they talk about, like he has like a plethora of injuries and he's going to be wrestling in a month. So
brother, you look up the word snake bit in the dictionary, you get Ahmed Johnson Farouk feud in WWF.
Yes.
I mean, the kidney injury with Ahmed, this injury with Farouk, and it's just destined to not be great. But on the road there, we got a little Rocky versus Savio. Again, not a lot to the match itself.
Yeah.
I'm noticing Rock was getting boos pretty much right away.
Yes.
We're still, blue and white tights, Rocky Maivia. I thought he had some steam in the beginning and like rewatching all this stuff or watching it for the first time. But now we're getting to the point where it's like, all right, give me something else, Rocky. And Savio's, I don't think anybody cares about Savio either. So I don't know, man. Not a lot to this match until the another dusty finish.
Yeah, it's tough. You gave me, by the way, you gave me like a billion, like 6 or something odd shows to review. And I picked this one, by the way, simply because I was like, I looked at this card. I was like, this is obviously not a great card, except the last 2 matches. But even then, but like, I thought there was so much interesting other news outside the wrestling.
Yes,
that was interesting. Like, this match shouldn't even take place on the show, and the fact that it did is wild to me. Yeah, I don't think this match was that great either. I thought it was a little bit better than the previous match, just because I think, I think there was more worker stuff, versus that sort of brutal Road Warrior style. More of that Savio like spin kick stuff. It just looks cool. But yeah, right. Rocky Maivia is still very much the blue chipper. I'll say this though, he cuts a promo with Kevin Kelly right before the match starts. And you saw a little bit on the build up to this show as well, because he has an Intercontinental title match with Bret Hart on a Raw building up to this show. Serious Rocky Maivia, where he's like looking down the camera, all upset, all angry. And when he comes out for this match, sort of slow at first, I'm seeing hints of the heel Rock to come. I am seeing hints of it show up. It is not there. The charisma of this in this match is still very much lacking, but you see hints of it showing up down the line. But yeah, it's definitely not going up any closer. And then you have like a weird another DQ, not even DQ, it was a countout finish that could have been a DQ. When you got Crush punching the Rock on the outside and causing that 10 count to expire.
Let me talk about this fucking count out because it enraged me. So the match is happening, whatever, and then Crush pulls Rock out of the ring while Savio is still in the ring. Gives him the old heart punch, which that's a whole other thing. But whatever, lays him out with the heart punch, and then gets counted out. Savio, fully conscious, was perfectly able to just leave the ring and break the count, but stupid Puerto Rican Savio Vega is like, oh, man, you cost me the match, Crush, or however he sounds.
Yes.
And so the logic gaps there. Stupid another count-out finish on a pay-per-view. Yeah. And not a lot. It's just a lot of nerve holds in this. I can't stand nerve holds also, by the way. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to lock in a rest hold submission, like crank an arm, crank a neck, something, right? Just doing the old Yokozuna, let me grab your neck a little bit and you pretend to be in pain. Like, if Savio Vega is not the guy to do that either, I don't know. This is the point in history
where nerve holds are still a popular move. Like, I don't know what that dies away. No, they're boring. Everything. Well, it's like the other problem of like nerve holds are like headlocks nowadays, where it's just like they're boring. They used to maybe be something.
Even a headlock, you can like, I don't know. There's some sense of like, oh, this guy's,
Yeah, and there's different variations on a headlock that you could do, so that's something. But like, it's a similar idea of like, at a certain point, it just became a rest hold for wrestlers, and it was like, then it became overused and overexposed, and I don't care for it. But there's like, then Vega and Crush are yelling at each other. There's like another disparity, and to me, I was like, this is just like another Heart Foundation moment where then Farouk comes off the commentary bench and yells at them, get them back together by having them beat up Rocky Maivia. And I was like, all right.
That'll bring any group together.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're heels. They're showcasing Farouk as a leader, even despite injury. They group together based off the hatred and violence of beating up Rocky Maivia here, much to the crowd's cheers, I guess, at that point. It was a lot. It was a lot.
And just to further just how wonky the show was, Farouk like we mentioned, is on commentary, but his microphone isn't working.
Yes.
So he has to take JR's headset. So it's one thing after the other. Every little thing is just going wrong here. And then Farouk on comment, once you can hear him, you're like, I wish his mic still wasn't working. But he's talking.
You said snake bit, and it's just like the guy comes out to do commentary and his mic doesn't work. It's like,
of course it doesn't.
It doesn't for this guy. At a certain point, you like almost feel bad because it's just like, man, there is nothing that can go right for Ron Simmons here.
And this is when he lays out, like you mentioned, the challenge to Ahmed Johnson. It's a 3-on-1 gauntlet match against the Nation, Farouk, Crush, and Savio. And if Ahmed wins, then the Nation has to disband.
Yep.
Which I would assume happens, and I assume that's how we get the Nation of what most people know as the Nation.
You'll find out in the next In Your House.
Oh, this show made me want to order that next one. Let me tell you. But so yeah, whatever. It's a count out finish. Rocky retains the title, like you said. They all get in the ring. They beat up on Rocky, but then Hacksaw Ahmed Johnson storms the ring with his big ass 2x4 and runs them all off. And then Ahmed grabs the mic, which is always a dicey situation. He accepts the gauntlet. It says something about, 3-on-1. It was just some immigrant, some convict, and your black ass.
He says illegal immigrant, convict, and then your black ass. And I'm like, it was a terrible promo. And then when that moment happened, I was like, whoa, okay. I'm actually
easy, Ahmed.
I was like, whoa, Ahmed. It got the crowd loved it. This is 97, so the crowd enjoyed it. But I was like, man, you got that promo today, sadly.
This whole feud is something that couldn't really. It's really just two guys fighting over who's more black. Basically, is what it comes down to. Which
of course, Vince booked that. Of course, this is a Vince McMahon booked company at this point in time.
You're like a gang. God damn, you know how you people. It's over.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There is a lot of that in this match. And I am fearful for you for In Your House 15 when Vince is calling that match, because I can't imagine there will be much nice, not necessarily niceties or anything, but just sort of a, I don't think it will be a woke commentary booth, if you will.
I don't think so. I mean, only up from here though for this feud.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
only success.
Vince is not long for commentary. I don't think he finishes 97 in the commentary booth. Especially with Survivor Series this year.
Definitely by WrestleMania, he's done for sure. Yeah. I'm trying to remember if he's on commentary for the Hell in a Cell match. I feel like he is.
I don't remember. I don't know. Because obviously by 97 for Survivor Series, that's when he becoms the full-on character, right? So
right.
It's a question of how long after that does he stay on commentary? Because I do recall like him making the conscious decision of like, I'm a heel now. I cannot be the commentary person. And then many moons later, he has heel Michael Cole. So he obviously went back on that decision.
What do you think of his commentary, Vince?
What's interesting to me is I think he sounds very old school and still sounds almost like an 80s commentator in a lot of ways for me, especially knowing that this is 97. This is the period in time where we are like months away from like the true Attitude Era, and you have Lawler and JR in the booth there. I think it was like super obvious to me in the main event match where like Vince would bow out every once in a while and have JR and Lawler talk to each other. But like we are so close to the Attitude Era where there are elements that still linger around like Vince on commentary that almost pull me out a little bit of like, oh yeah, Vince is still here. He doesn't quite fit with what the company is about to turn into, which is already kind of starting, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting era because on one show you got Stone Cold, but you also got Rockabilly. So it's the transition is very interesting to live through. It is
97 is like such a transition year for WWF. That it is wild to watch where this show itself is a weird thing because you have Rocky Maivia still. He's not going to be formally The Rock yet, and you have after that match you have Ken Shamrock still around using a computer.
Do you think Ken Shamrock knows how to use a laptop?
No, the moment they cut to him, he's like on the computer, mouth agape, like just like he looks like a caveman using a tool for the first time. Like it is a rough look for old Ken Shamrock here. But yeah, you have that, and then like you literally have like the country section of the show of Jesse James, Rockabilly, and Honky Tonk. That like there's so like early 90s stuff still around, but with Austin and Bret and even Sean, like we're moving so quickly to the Attitude Era that there's still so many things that linger around that just will die off very quickly before the end of the year.
Well, you have that, but you also have Mark Marrow and Sable.
Oh yes.
So Marrow, he's recovering from knee injury. He says he'll be back in the summer sometime. Him and Sable are there just talking, whatever, giving an update on his injury. And all of a sudden you see Stone Cold. Okay, so Stone Cold walks into the bathroom yelling. Like, God damn, what the hell?
I gotta take a shit. I gotta... It's like, brother, you're not even mad at anyone yet.
Is he like still mad at like whatever Owen and Bulldog did before to like prevent him from getting it? Is that the thing?
Maybe that's a fair guess, but he comes in yelling about nothing.
They siphoned my gas tank. Goddamn, I'm gonna take a piss.
I had to go to the Texaco and get some more gas, and I could. Well, it's just like, what are you talking, Steve? Oh man.
And so that happens, and then there's a ruckus. By the way, this is all while Marrow and Sable are still getting interviewed by Kevin Kelly or whoever. There's a ruckus, and Dave Hebner and two refs charge into the bathroom. And out comes Bulldog and Owen Hart with vague, ambiguous metal pipes. I don't know what they were holding. They looked like big, like, I don't even know, like paper clips or Allen wrenches. I don't know what they were holding. Tire irons, maybe?
Yeah.
But the implication...
I love this. I loved Bulldog coming out, looking directly at camera, eyes wide open, and then running away. Like he looked like a cartoon character, and I loved that moment. It was so good that Davey came out first.
Yes. Just, I don't know. Just two muscled up guys in tights coming out of the bathroom holding tire irons. It's just... This is wrestling. This is my kind of wrestling.
Look, it's a nice piece of business, of like you're doing this interview segment with Mark Marrow and Sable, and then cutting to this other storyline bit. It's a nice piece of business. I'm fine with that. But then, it Davey coming out first, looking like a Scooby Doo cartoon, is fucking hilarious to me.
It is like modern WWE has taken this approach where there'll be like a thing happening, then something happens in the background, just like independent of that, and this is kind of like foreshadowing into that. So I do like how that whole segment was framed and all that stuff. And it was effective.
It's a way to make your wrestling world feel alive, and it is something that for whatever reason not a lot of companies do. Just like have the show happen and then something quote unquote not scripted having surrounding that, it makes it feel like a lively thing. And it's a nice piece of business.
Right. It did. It made me feel alive. It felt organic. It felt real. All right. Next match. Jesse James. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, Davey coming out like a cartoon character made me feel like this was real,
Yes. It brought me, I was immersed in this universe. I'm here. We're seeing just real people conflict and fight each other.
Yeah.
All right. Now here's the Rockabilly. Here's Jesse James. Here's the Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, baby.
Ooh, all right. So Rhodey or whatever, Jesse James,
Double J, if you will.
Get over it.
Double J with a double M, by the way. Very strange. And then when he becomes Road Dogg Jesse James, they cut the double M to just one. Why is it double M here? Why is he double J double M? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm just now noticing that James has two M's.
Is it? So this is my thought. This is a Jeff Jarrett, double J. He's literally he does the double J and then he does the double J hands. Is it because it was JEFF J? Now I gotta figure out how to spell Jarrett.
This guy's got to spell
JARATT. Do you think it's that like double S double M that they were trying to capture of Jeff Jarrett? I think that's what
the thing is. They had the ability to just make up a name for him, and
yeah, I know. It is purposely like they, for whatever reason, have the Double J gimmick, and they want to give it to somebody else, and they're like, "Oh, what's another Western Double J name? Jesse James. There we go. Oh, we got to make it different. We'll add a second M to James. Fine, sure, I guess. Yeah, it's weird. And then you have Rockabilly making his debut.
Jesse James has the most normal name of this whole group of people.
Yes. Then you got Honky Tonk Man and the debut of Rockabilly Billy Gunn,
which we'll get into it, but we got Rockabilly. It's pretty clever.
It's good. I mean, yeah,
it's a good pivot from Billy Gunn, right? Rockabilly.
It's look, if I'm looking at the roster and I'm doing a storyline where the Honky Tonk Man is about to have a protege, then yeah, Rockabilly is a pretty good name to come up for with a guy named Billy Gunn. That's fine. It's a terrible gimmick, but it's a good name for what you're trying to go for.
What is the gimmick? What's this dancing that Billy Gunn's doing?
The dancing is so bad. He's trying to do like a two-step thing.
It's like
it's so uncomfortable.
It's like the Breakfast Club. I don't know if you've seen that movie when they're all like doing the foot pivot sliding to the left and to the right. It's like he's doing that.
Yes, he is jucking and jiving, two-stepping down the ramp, I guess, and it looks awkward. He also does it in the ring, like half-hearted too. It's just a lot of weird.
Half-hearted is the key. It's so clear that he hates this, which makes it so funny to watch.
But it's like also this, to do like preamble to this match, like there's so much backstory that they have to suddenly decide on and figure out how to unravel. Because like part of this, right, is Honky Tonk Man is looking for a protege. He, on the build to this show, tries to recruit Jesse James to be that guy. Jesse James, says, I guess, basically no by breaking a guitar over Honky Tonk Man's head.
Right.
And then the next week, Honky Tonk Man says, "Hey, Billy Gunn, I think you should be my protege. I think you look good with dyed black hair and a pompadour and all these sort of things. I think you should be my protege." To which he then slaps Honky Tonk Man and says, "No, I'm the best wrestler. I don't need you," and walks out. And then here he is, all of a sudden, I'm Rockabilly.
Never mind.
And JR is asking Honky Tonk Man, "Hey, this man just slapped you. How is he now coming out after, coming out as Rockabilly? Why is he now your protege?" And Honky Tonk Man sitting over here like, "Well, once I got slapped in the face and rejected, I knew I had to pursue harder." And I was like, Honky Tonk Man, what a terrible...
that checks out for Honky Tonk Man now.
What a terrible thing to say, number one.
No means yes. No,
and like, not only like rebuked, but like slapped in the face, being like, I gotta double my efforts. Like, no, Honky Tonk Man, what are you doing? And he somehow wins. We don't get like why he said yes or anything like that. Maybe we'll get that on Raw's War or something, but like, we don't get any of that. It's just like, I double my efforts and now I convinced him and he's Rockabilly now. And that's basically it. That's the turn.
Now we're here.
Jesse
James versus Rockabilly.
To a bad match.
And then the bell rings.
I thought this was the worst match of the show. There is an element of chemistry in the ring, if you will. And obviously they go on to become the New Age Outlaws. There is an element of chemistry, but the work is so not good. It is, it's one of those things of like, I talk about all the time in Ring Post Radio where there are people that you need to hide in a wrestling match. And that's why we should be forming more tag teams.
Right.
I talk about it all the time with AEW, frustratingly, lately. But it's one of those things of like, if you can have a lot of good singles guys, but like if you have singles guys that are just not really like working together or working well in matches, put them in a tag team. These are two guys individually as wrestlers aren't that good, but like as a tag team will end up being better than the sum of their parts.
Dude, that is like the main takeaway from this is that we have two guys who individually are floundering. You can hear a pin drop in this arena. The work's not good.
Oh my God, yes.
The gimmicks are bad. Honky Tonk does not add anything to this. He detracts, if anything.
Yep.
But you see, I'm watching this, and it's like these two guys are going to be arguably the hottest act in the hottest period of wrestling ever within a few years. It's just so crazy how like that. Combine them, and then that's what happens.
The end of the years, they form New Age Outlaws. I think before the end of the year, this gimmick does not last long. Rockabilly. Yeah,
I mean they joined DX after WrestleMania the previous year, so yeah, I would imagine New Age Outlaws has to be coming soon. I would hope so. I hope they don't just run with this for too long.
One thing I liked about this match is that halfway through it, out of nowhere, Rockabilly. My apologies, sir. Rockabilly hits a famouser and then does his little like point to his ass and shakes it. And I was just like, is this guy like a soothsayer or something? He hits his future finisher and then points to his ass like he's Mr. Ass.
I mean, he's always had a great ass.
Yeah, we can all agree.
Still does.
But I was just like, man, what a soothsaying moment, a future predicting moment of a famouser and a Mr. Ass point for Billy Gunn. What are the odds? It's like he's like, please, I can do other things. It's
it is like interesting seeing guys figure out their finishers, which I think I forgot to mention in the previous match. The Rock did the Rock Bottom, which I believe it was his first time doing it, if not very early on, and it looked really good. So you can like see like, oh, that shit looked pretty good. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
And the famouser here was really good. It was like the only good thing about this match. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And but only gets a 2 count. But then whatever. Jesse James does a random small package, gets the win. And Honky Tonk Man is not too pleased. He swings his guitar at Jesse, but he gets out of the ring, and the guitar hits the corner post, and now we're all just sitting here wearing glitter and belt buckles. It's basically
what makes this match isn't great, right? We can all agree. But what makes this match worse is the 2025 lens of how like Westerns just like, I guess they're making a comeback. I guess in 2024, 2023, they're making a comeback. Yeah. But like Westerns, even in 97, I don't think are as much of a thing anymore. Right. That's more like 70s, 80s stuff. Like that's not really a thing anymore. This is like a decade old gimmick that now they're giving rockabilly to. Even Elvis, 97. Is Elvis still alive in 97?
My note here was, who could possibly give a shit about Honky Tonk Man in 1997? And then adjacent gimmicks along with that, like no way.
Elvis died 20 years earlier in 77, and here we are doing Honky Tonk Man and Rockabilly and Jesse James long after like Westerns and like country music started to die down. Like this point is like the rise of hip hop. I think in this show or one of the Rawls's Wars, they talk about like Snoop Dogg's like new album, and it's like, yeah. Like hip hop is the thing nowadays. And obviously when it comes like D-Generation X and all this stuff down the line, like that will become more of a thing. But like this is such a 10 old gimmick that we're repackaging for Billy Gunn that it doesn't make any sense. And even in 2025 lens, we're getting some of that pushback back with like, what's that Paramount show? With Paramount Plus show, with the guy that was on the TV show that was in Waterworld, and then he left. Kevin Costner. Right. What the fuck is that show
Yellowstone?
Called? Yellowstone. You know, you have like Yellowstone making a comeback, and you know the spinoff or whatever of John Hamm. Like there's like a little bit of a thing back with it, but like it's still like not anywhere close it was to like in the 70s. And I can't even fathom why they thought, yes, let's continue with Honky Tonk Man. In 97, it's again speaking to the, like Attitude Era is around the corner, and there's so many things like this that are so tragically old, even in the context of 97.
Even if you want to do like a cowboy-esque character, I mean, look at Hangman Adam Page. Like, that's a guy that would have worked in this time period.
Yeah. But
they just decided to go the caricature route with it.
The problem is that it is. I mean, it's still the WWF where they're just now starting to kind of come out of those caricature gimmicks, right? You know, but there's still remnants of it. And if Hangman Adam Page was still around, he would for sure be, you know, the cowboyified, walking out with a cowboy hat, you know, every single week. I don't even has Hangman Page worn a cowboy hat once? I don't think he has.
Ooh,
other
that's a
than
good question.
other than that Dark Order video package.
I'm sure in his life he's worn one.
Sure, I'm sure as well. But I don't remember a single moment where he's ever walked out with a cowboy hat.
He's come out on a horse before, I believe.
Yeah, famously a horse. But like, yeah, it's like the gimmick is so subdued compared to even here. And even then, like, it's not like we're saying anything crazy. Rockabilly just comes out with what he was already wearing, jeans and boots, when he was the smoking gun, Billy Gunn. And then the only difference is he has a shirt that's bedazzled with Rockabilly on the back. Like I'm saying these are over the top gimmicks, but he just comes out with a shirt basically.
Yeah, it's literally smoking gun Billy that just dances sometimes.
Yeah, pretty much. And now he wears a shirt that says Rockabilly on the back that he turns around like a jersey and points at it. Like, what are we doing over here? You know,
and just James pops his collar and then does the thing before.
Yeah.
It's this. That made me want to throw my TV out the window when he did that.
Again, it's like Elvis died 2 decades before this show, and then we're here still doing stuff like this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But the hits just keep on coming. We go back. Well, first we get a commercial for a Undertaker door banner.
Yeah,
which feels like a very random thing to advertise on pay-per-view. But
it was this a precursor to Fatheads?
I think first, I mean, terrifying. There's no way in hell as a kid I want the Undertaker, a life-size Undertaker on my door.
Yeah,
no way in hell. I'll piss myself every morning.
Yeah. Imagine you're a character, you're Sully Sullenberger, you come out, you go to scare a kid, and then you turn around, you see the Undertaker, you're like, that scares me. I'm Sully Sullenberger. That little Monsters Inc. reference for everybody at home.
Shout out Sully. But then we go to Kevin Kelly with Stone Cold. Now he's recovering from his beatdown.
Yep.
Kevin Kelly's like, "Are you prepared to still wrestle tonight?" And Austin's he's Stone Cold. Like, "God damn!" You know, it's pretty much that. And he's talking shit about the Hart family, calls Stu Hart fat or something. I don't know. He says, no one in that family can whip Austin's ass. And then he's saying ass a bunch, and you can hear Vince on commentary like, all right, that's enough. Like he's trying to cut it short, but there's like a crucial story beat after where Gorilla Monsoon is there. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I've rearranged the lineup, but so that Austin has more time to prepare so he can recover. So Steve and Bret will be in the main event, and then whatever, yada, yada, yada. So
I sort of talked about it at the top when talking about the Austin Bret Hart match. It's this thing of like, as a booker managing expectations, and right off the bat, by putting this match in the main event, you have to start thinking, oh, they are trying to replicate a WrestleMania 13 element somehow in this match. It doesn't really happen, but it's the thing of like, they're now, I think for me a little bit, I read it as like, they're now setting up an expectation of, oh, you should get excited. It's the main event match, the show. It's going on the show over the world title match of Undertaker and Mankind. Get excited for this. And it's like, okay. And then, I think it's one of those things that kind of maybe hurts the match a little bit too, when it gets to the main event, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, this crowd is just getting beat down match after match.
Yeah.
Just stinker after stinker. There's a quick little segment after that, though, where Lance Wright, formerly from ECW, is interviewing the Hart Foundation, and Bulldog claimed that Austin started the fight, and Owen's like, or Bulldog, I think it was, he was like, we were just celebrating our tag team victory in the bathroom, which, what does that mean?
Yeah. well, you know how bros go down in the, by taking shits together?
Meet me in the stall. Let's celebrate.
Yeah, you know how bros are?
Drilling a hole in the fucking wall. But, so I don't know, man. But
it was like Austin tried to attack Owen in the bathroom, I believe is what Bulldog says. Where he's like, yeah, we were celebrating the bathroom, doing our thing, taking a piss. And then Austin comes in and beats up Owen. And I'm just here. I pick up a wrench, a comedy-sized wrench, and start beating Austin with it.
It really was a clue weapon.
Fucking
candlestick ass.
Yeah. I beat him up with a candlestick, and it was Bulldog with a candlestick in the bathroom, as we can all. I mean,
we saw it. We all solved it. We all solved it. Well, that being said, it's been not a lot of good stuff happening.
Yeah, not a great show. Not a great show
until the WWF title match. Undertaker, the champion, defending against Mankind. So obviously, tons of backstory, even at this stage in their rivalry. There's a lot to get into, but ultimately, this match I think saved the show from being an all-time terrible show.
Yes.
I would almost go as far to say this might be the best match these two have ever had against each other.
You ruined my hot take. I was coming in to say I like this more than the main event. I thought this match ruled. I thought so much of it was like really, really good. And the moment it crosses the line TNA style for me is Mankind diving face first into the announce table.
Ooh, iconic.
An insane bump for Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame bumper Mick Foley. I saw it and I was like, yeah, woo, let's go, baby. That's how you do it.
I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg for the bumps that Mick was taking. I mean,
yeah.
I guess first of all, just to lay out the backstory where we're at this point. Mm-hmm. So these guys, they've had street fights against each other. They've had buried alive matches. Mankind buried Undertaker alive. And then they had a boiler room match where Paul Bearer turned on Undertaker, aligned with Mankind.
Yep.
So it's been this constant struggle. Taker has been trying to get his revenge, as per the title of the show.
What?
Yeah. It all comes together.
But not just on Mankind. He threw a fireball in his face, but on Paul Bearer.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about that fireball. Mm-hmm. But there's been shark cage matches where Paul's in the shark cage.
Yep.
But once Undertaker won that match, they lowered the shark cage and Paul Bearer was able to escape. And it's a whole thing. So Undertaker still has not gotten his revenge on Paul, even though he's beaten Mankind a few times, I think, at this point. I'm starting to, he's watching all this stuff chronologically. It's like, all right, enough of Taker and Mankind. Like, we get it. Even though all the matches have been good, it's like, all right, can we do something else?
And I fully think based on the finish of this match, finish of the match, and then we'll talk about the fuck ups in the post match. But this fully reads to me as this is supposed to be the blow off here. But we'll see.
One would think, mm-hmm. But
they work well together. They work well together. I don't blame constantly.
Great chemistry.
Together.
Sure.
I get it. They're great workers. I mean, Mankind is an all-time bumper, like I said, a Hall of Fame guy. There are not many people that are willing to put their bodies on the line like that. Darby Allin is someone up there for me. Jeff Hardy to a certain extent as well, but I think even less so than Mankind. But yeah, it's just crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's so on Rawls' is War. Thank you. Mankind threw a fireball in the face of Undertaker. So Taker, he hasn't been seen since. This was just 3 or 4 weeks before the show, and Taker comes out wearing a bandage on the right side of his face, which led me to think, why not just pull out the mask that he was wearing the previous year?
That's a good point.
Does he not still have it? Did he throw it away?
There was also a promo that Mankind cut, I think, on the first Raw after WrestleMania, where they're setting up the Taker match, which I have a big backstage gossip about this match.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, real quickly, but it was part of the promo was that Mankind wanted to brutalize Undertaker or whatever. Great promo. And then he says that he's going to do something that will cause Taker to don the mask, and he pulls out a second Mankind mask. That fully gets dropped. And obviously I think the idea there is I'm going to throw a fireball in your face to disfigure your face, right?
Right.
But that would have been perfect at a perfect moment here to don the old Undertaker broken nose mask here for this match. That would have been, honestly, that's actually a legitimately great idea, and I would have immediately proposed it.
Especially since Mankind's mask gets pulled off during this match for the first time ever. So it could have been a tit for tat thing. You pull your mask off, you pull my mask off. It could be a whole thing.
Yeah, this should have been, we agree, this should have been a Lucha de Apuestas match. Where
yes, that's what everybody says. And
exactly.
We're here to agree. We're here to agree with that. But yeah, I mean, intense. I mean, right from the bell, Taker's so intense with the punches in the corner. They fight to the outside. Mankind takes this ridiculous bump into the barricade where Taker's grabs him by the neck, tosses him backwards, and Mankind just goes head and neck first into the steel barricade and concrete.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Like I keep saying, all-time Hall of Fame bumper. Maybe not. I don't think he's like a top tier. He's not a great. He's a really good seller, but an all time bumper. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like he is. He doesn't necessarily sell not poorly, but like the things he does in this match are crazy. And that bump going over back first over a metal barricade, just basically, I think he maybe hits his like head when he goes over the barricade as well. Like it's just like, God, this guy, what is he doing? I love it.
Yeah, I mean, just no sense of like, let me break my fall a little bit. No, he's just lunging the back of his head first into the steel. It's just this guy, and then they keep fighting. Like, they get back in the ring. By the way, I got to shout out this old school that Undertaker did, because he does it like he grabs the wrist of Mankind, goes to the top rope, but then they like lose grip at some point. But Undertaker's still like walking on the top rope, and then he leaps at him. It just looks so good.
Yeah, looks great.
Get an earned shot at some point after Paul Bearer distracts the referee, but it seems like I don't know if the referee cares about anything, because Mankind hits Undertaker with a water pitcher. At some point.
Yes.
Which the referee, I think, was looking right at it, so I guess he doesn't care.
I don't know. I think it's like the beginnings of the Attitude Era. You know what I mean? Like we're starting to get to a point where rules get lax. I did like the poetry of that spot of 2 weeks before this, Mankind hitting Undertaker with a fireball, and here he is now hitting Undertaker with a pitcher of water. There is something poetic there that I don't know if anyone did intentionally, but I thought it was a very nice poetic move to have fire into water and I guess glass to go into this match. I thought it was a nice little piece of business.
So next week he'll hit him with like a rock.
Yeah.
Or like a mound of dirt.
Yes. A buried alive match around the corner.
There we go. Oh, maybe they already did that. So next is lightning to the face. So we get all the Pokemons all captured.
Exactly. One's going to turn into a ghost.
Right. See, on WCW, they're doing Mortal Kombat-esque feuds. Here, we're doing Pokemon.
Yes.
They're way ahead of their time. Exactly. I like it.
Yes. Vince, famous Pokemon guy.
Undertaker Mankind, a lucha Pokemon match. I mean, if nothing else, that's what this is. We get the classic cactus elbow from Mankind on the floor from the second rope.
I was going to say off the second rope, top rope, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's still way too high to be doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Goddamn it. Some crazy pile drivers from Mankind. At some point, the ref gets squashed in the corner. But then Mankind locks in the mandible claw on Undertaker and pretty much knocks him out with it. But there's no ref. But then a second ref gets in, and then Mankind, for some reason, decides to mandible claw the new ref. He's unhinged. Yeah. He's deranged.
Yes. Full unhinged Mankind here.
And steps get brought into play. The steel steps. Undertaker drop kicks the steps into which looks. I mean, the drop kick was whatever, but I don't know. This whole package of the bump was cool. Mm-hmm. Taker then scrambles Mick's brain with a chair.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we get the classic old ear rip-off spot. Not where his ear was ripped off, but the same deal where his neck's caught in the ropes. Mankind's is. And this is when his mask comes off.
Yes.
Which, again, is the first time. We've never seen Mankind's face. And I re-listened to an interview, or I think it was from his podcast, where he was talking about this match. And apparently he shaved off a lot of his skin with sandpaper. So, because his idea was like, oh, what does Mankind look like under the mask? Well, he's got to look really unhinged and maniacal and just like gross. And his idea was to actually sandpaper skin off of his face, which I didn't even notice watching the match. No, so it's like all for naught.
Mick spends the rest of the match aggressively trying to cover his face.
Well, also because Mick had this idea, obviously because it's the sandpaper, but I guess he never relayed the message to production. So production was like trying to shoot around it because they thought it was like a fuck up, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was just poor communication, I guess. Mm-hmm. But Undertaker's bandage comes off and he looks gross, but that's all makeup. So I was like, whatever. But choke slam in the ring. That's after that where we get that crazy headfirst spot off the apron through the table.
In all time, he makes a hole in a table. I don't know what the table was made out of or what, but he makes an active hole and it looked awesome. It was such the height, that line of wrestling going into cartoony like bulldog coming out of the bathroom with a wrench, with a candlestick. Like that's cartoony. This is like so close to that line of like Undertaker walks out as Mankind is just like an ostrich head deep into a table. Like it looks so cartoony, but the bump was so cool that it doesn't cross that line for me. It works so well here.
That like intersection is where wrestling is perfect. I think where cartoon meets awesome realism.
Yeah, but it can't cross it. It can't cross it like
right.
Bulldog.
It's a delicate line.
It's so delicate, and the great wrestler is the one that can get close without crossing.
Exactly. But then that leads to a choke slam onto Mankind for a 2 count, which you didn't see a lot during this period. With an Undertaker goes to the tombstone, hits it, which always looks gnarly when he does it on Mick Foley. I don't know, just the size of him just looks like it compresses his body so much.
Oh yeah.
And that gives Taker the win. So he retains the title, and but that is not the end of the story here.
Yeah.
Undertaker, because he wants revenge on Paul Bearer. So he chases Paul around the ring. Paul gets into the ring, which is a stupid move. And so I guess the idea, because obviously Mankind did the fireball to Taker on Raw. That's why we're here. So I guess the idea was Mankind was going to try to do that again.
Yes.
But Undertaker was going to pull in Paul Bearer as like a meat shield, and then Mankind would inadvertently fireball Paul Bearer.
Yep.
However, is that what happened? I forget. Is that what happened exactly?
That is what they're attempting to do. And what instead happens is Mankind fails the fireball twice. Like they fail it the first time. You can see them actively trying to redo the spot. And then he fucks up again. And at that point, Mark is just like, fuck this. And then just pushes Mankind over, pushes Paul over, then just grabs it himself and goes for the fireball. And
then Taker finally proceeds to light a fire and throw it in Paul's face, which, I mean, so close.
Yeah. The fuck ups are so bad that it is a certain point of like, it takes away a little bit of the match.
Yes.
But not enough to like really down it for me. But I liked more that Undertaker gets proper revenge on Paul Bearer and fireballs him to a certain extent. Yeah. Like obviously Taker as this like mythical spooky man can get away with fireballing another guy. But like I like that more than dodging Mankind's fireball and throwing Paul Bearer as like a meat shield. I like it more that Taker actually gets his revenge on Paul and he gets his revenge on Mankind by beating him, retaining his title, gets his revenge on Paul Bearer by fireballing him. Like I thought it was like, oh yeah, that works, but it was just all the fuck ups in the middle that and what they obviously meant to do originally I thought was just too weird.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, other than the fact that Undertaker, he's not a fire Pokemon. He's electric.
Good point. My apologies.
Traditionally, he doesn't have those kind of spells. That's not the spells that he works in. Kane does.
Yes.
Not Undertaker.
Yeah.
Not Undertaker.
He eventually becomes fire a little bit. He gets the ploofs of fire, but he doesn't harness the fire because he doesn't.
Well, he also gets set on fire, so obviously
he doesn't harness the fire at all. So maybe that's fair.
He tries. He tries to learn, but he fails. Yeah. That's the whole thing. That's
true.
That's the lore that a lot of people miss, which is thank God we're here to put this all together.
Exactly right. Do you want some backstage hot goss about this?
So I don't even have to call it the Superstar line and listen to Pillman and Sonny pork each other while they try to tell me?
No, you don't have to. So
okay.
So one of the other reasons I picked In Your House 14 is because of a major thing that has nothing to do with this show specifically, but happens to one of my favorite wrestlers.
Oh, yeah?
So WrestleMania 13 had that 4-way, right?
The tag match?
Was it the tag match? I thought it was whatever. There was like a 4-way at some point for the number one contendership or whatever, and Bret Hart wins it or something, I think.
Oh, at a Final Four in your house.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And Vader is in that match, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He ends up getting like a bruised knee injury, supposedly. And apparently he was supposed to challenge Undertaker at this In Your House show. There was apparently some graphics made for the match. However, like I said, with the first Raw after WrestleMania, they make it very clear that Mankind is the number one contender. There's a point where Vince even says Mankind is the number one contender, not Vader as previously reported, but Mankind. So they're immediately switch it. There's some back and forth about why Vader says he had a bruised knee, so he needed the time off, or whatever. I think it was like Bruce Pritchard says, it's not a bruised knee. We just thought that Vader got fat and didn't deserve the spot anymore. That's basically what Bruce Pritchard says. Is that Vader had put on a lot more pounds, obviously, but since WCW days, but
right,
basically just saying he's too fat. We're not going to put him in the spot. We're going to give it to Mankind. Which, look, I like Vader a lot. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. But this Mankind match is really good. I'm not upset about that. And then because of that, because they're no longer having Vader do this match, they decide to send Taker and Vader on the house show loop, I guess, for what it was, right? Right. And so they send the two of them to Kuwait. Kyle, do you know anything about the story I'm about to say, by the way?
I don't know.
So this is the infamous Vader in Kuwait story. I am so happy, by the way.
Oh boy,
that you don't know what this is, and I'm about to give it to you.
I don't think I do. No,
it's so great. It's talked about in Vader's autobiography right here.
Wow, look at that.
That I have right here, and along with other stuff. Infamous story. So Vader is doing the house show gimmick in Kuwait with Taker because they don't need him for In Your House, even though according to this book that Vader writes that he was supposed to work in your house at some point, and maybe he still would have. But they end up going on Good Morning Kuwait, which is like a Good Morning America talk show type thing.
That rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah. Where the interviewer, the host of the show, has the two of them on. They're supposed to be enemies, so they're sitting on like two ends of a couch, right. Which is very fun business. And I think the first question that the host asks the two of them is wrestling fake? Yeah. And Taker responds very politically of like, whether or not it's fake, what we do in the ring is real. If you put any like pro athlete in the ring with us, they're going to be hurt really bad. It's basically the idea of like injuries happen, these sort of things. The basic idea that we all sort of talk about today is that like, whether it doesn't matter if it's real or not, the injuries and these moves, the athleticism is very much real. Vader says, because he's also the heel at this point, says, I'm not as, basically something to the effect of as, I'm not as nice as my colleague here. I'll show you what is real. Grabs the host by like the collar and shakes him around real rough, scares the ever-loving shit out of him, shakes him up real rough, and says, is this real? Yelling in his face, is this real? Does this feel real? Real Roddy Piper on Bill Maher energy here. But he's like shaking the guy in his face. Vader maintains that he was told by the producer of the segment to do that to the host. However, the host apparently wasn't told about this. He then, immediately after the segment, called the authorities on Vader, who rushed the studio and arrested Vader in Kuwait. Immediately following this, he gets arrested. Where he gets arrested on April 11th, and he gets arrested. He's put in jail, and then he gets moved to his hotel room, where they put like police officers outside of his hotel room, and he's constantly barraged because now it's become like also like a Kuwait national news story of this like wrestler gone rogue who's attacked the host. All these sort of things, the kayfabe of it all. WWE doesn't have like anything to say about this, by the way. They're not like advertising this anyway. Oh, yeah. And Vader is stuck in Kuwait for 2 weeks. He's let out and finally able to go back to America on the 22nd following In Your House 14. So because of a knee injury, because Bruce Pritchard thinking Vader's too fat, they decide to then have Vader work Kuwait, which gets him in a whole lot of trouble and ends up getting him arrested in Kuwait for basically 2 weeks.
Whew. Now that you mention it, I think I have seen that clip of them on that talk show, but I didn't know the other backstory behind it. That's sensational. I mean, did they like follow up? Like, did they turn it into a kayfabe? Like, this guy went rogue in Kuwait and he's a loose cannon kind of thing.
In the WWF, I don't think so. Like it was already kind of played up because I think along with Bruce Pritchard saying Vader's too fat, I think he also said that Vader's too rough. Like, so this is the point in time where like a lot of that conversation of Vader being too rough of a wrestler to work with is happening. So maybe they lean into it. Like, I think like next show and also on the Raw and War building up to it, they do Shamrock and Vader. So they start doing like that MMA Vader crossover sort of thing and playing into it. I don't know if they play into it on television. I will be fascinated to see what happens, but yeah, I mean, it adds to his aura, I guess. But yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's like an infamous story. It's like the John Stossel story of him getting slapped. But it's a crazy story that like there was that match supposed to happen, and because of just situations, now Vader is arrested in Kuwait and he's stuck there for 2 weeks. This is a great autobiography, and he talks about it in the book. And he's like, I was paranoid and scared out of my mind. I would get knocks on my door at the middle of night and death threats underneath my door constantly. And it's just apparently like a harrowing experience for the guy. So, yeah, I wanted to, one of the reasons I picked In Your House because I wanted to tell that story. And I'm glad, awesome. I'm glad he couldn't quite remember it because it's a great story. It's a great Vader story.
Like you said, it adds to his whole aura and all that stuff. So I don't know. I think it worked out for him.
I don't know if it plays into on television because at this point, WWF is like not even talking about it. I don't think they make I don't think they make a public statement until after he's out. So
yeah, it probably wouldn't reflect well on the company, I guess, if the guys they sent over there caused a ruckus like that. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, especially for Vince.
Well, no Vader here
on
Vader this show, here. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know who is here is Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on each other in the main event. Their third one-on-one match. And, I mean, we talked about it earlier. The bar that they've set, probably an unreachable one. I mean, WrestleMania is an all-time great match. Survivor Series is another great match.
Yeah. This
one, I mean, the Bret injury and all that stuff too. But like, I think this one played more on Bret's, his attitude, the anti-American stuff, the heel work more so than having like an epic, quote unquote banger of a match. Even though this still is a good match, definitely the weakest of them, but a weak match between these two is still a good match.
Yeah, exactly. It's that expectations we're talking about is that we have the expectation that these guys will put on a banger, and knowing, especially now that like at this point, following WrestleMania 13, Austin is basically a tweener, right? He hasn't gone full babyface. This isn't like obviously what Austin's about to become. Again, he is during this year will become that, but he is like getting there. And Bret Hart is just like firmly heel at this point, following WrestleMania. So it's like you have like heel work, which is kind of new for Bret to a certain extent, you have Austin, who's like a tweener guy who's just like brawling all over the ring here. And then you have an injured Bret Hart. So it's like, it's a weirdly like forgettable match for like, especially their trio of matches, but so there's a disappointment there, but again, like it's Bret Hart and Steve, like, I say it like sometimes with like Will Ospreay or something where it's like, it's Will Ospreay. Like the worst match he's going to have is still like a 3.5 star match.
Right.
Like he's still going to have like a really good match. It's just like you would be disappointed because he didn't have a match of the year contender every single week. But exactly. Like, it's whatever. It's not, it's a disappointment at the end of the day.
It's also a DQ finish, which
and that's another aspect of it.
If this had a clean finish and the overall show was stronger, I think people might talk about this match in higher regard.
I agree. If there was a better build-up for the crowd and not a shitty hour that the crowd had to sit through, I fully agree that there could have been more juice in the main event. But Mankind and Undertaker could literally only do so much. And again, they fuck up their post-match thing, so that took the air out of the room too.
That's the last thing they saw. So it's unfortunately all the great work they did was almost thrown out. But a lot of leg work in this match. Even though Bret is the legit injured one, he's targeting the leg of Austin in this match. Like they're brawling all around the ring, in the beginning. Austin's brought the hot start from him, tossing Bret into the barricades and whatnot. But at some point, they get back in the ring and the ref takes a bump because, of course, he does. I think it's Hebner. Bret takes a chair, hits Stone Cold in the knee with it, and this is what begins his methodical attack on the leg of Austin. We got the ring post figure 4. We got more chair shots to the leg. More just various submissions. He rips off the knee brace of Austin. And I want to shout out Austin's selling in this match, though, by the way, because his legs getting mutilated by Bret. And there's one point where Austin, like, he's on the apron and Bret's on the floor.
Yep.
But Austin's like trying to leap for a clothesline, but he does like a kind of a shitty one because his legs, I don't know if that's happened to happen that way or not, but it worked because his leg was all messed up, so he couldn't like leap to do a clothesline.
Yep.
Also, Austin does a pile driver, but his leg buckles, so he can't really hit it. So little things like that are why these two are so good.
I love shit like that. I love great limb selling of a guy getting like thrown into a corner, but like failing to run. Like Tanahashi has done that a crap ton in New Japan, where like a guy's just can't succeed in what he's doing. And I love it not just like in the running aspect, but I love what Austin does where it is he is trying to do his own moves and he can't do it properly. It's just perfect, like exactly what people should be doing. More people should be doing.
You would think. You would think it'd be commonplace. Austin goes for the stunner, but Bret counters with a low blow. I guess it's a no DQ match. Bret hits a superplex and then goes for the sharpshooter, but the knee brace that Bret took off of Austin is still in the ring. So as Bret is trying to lock in the sharpshooter, Austin grabs the knee brace and smashes Bret in the head with it, which I liked. That was very seamless how like the knee brace just happened to be there, and that's how it was.
Yeah. Great piece of business. Austin
locks in his own sharpshooter, and then Owen Hart and Bulldog come out. They get on the apron. He gets off. He tries to dispatch of these guys, but they get off the apron. Austin locks in the sharpshooter again, but then Bulldog's he's just back. And then chair to the back of Stone Cold, DQ.
Yep.
And I wrote in my notes, fuck this. Because at this point, I was like, come on, can we have one clean finish?
Yeah. We have what is it? 2 DQs, I think, right? 2 DQs.
2 DQs and a count out. And then
2 clean finishes with one with a post match that was garbage.
and one was Road Dogg and Jesse James.
Yeah. The other match was the worst. The one match with the clean finish was a roll up, which, that's fine. Some people are angry about roll ups, but a roll up in the worst match of the show.
So no real good, like, complete packages on this show. No. There was some good, but,
No, at the end of the day, like, the show is skippable.
For sure.
That's what obviously sucks. But
I think Mankind and Taker is definitely worth anybody going out of their way to watch.
100%. 100%, I would say recommend. That in the bathroom gimmick of Davey Boy.
Yes, of course.
Like, 100%, you got to go out of your way and watch Taker and Mankind, because that's great. This is like, it's fine. But then again, you get another DQ finish. You get the continuation. I'm interested to see how it follows up, knowing that like also Bret's about to go into like knee surgery after this. Like, what are they going to do now with Austin? Because this entire show is basically built around the Hart Foundation trying to literally beat down, slash tires for Steve Austin and injure him. Right? I think like Owen says at some point during the show, he's like, we're going to end him or whatever, something like that. And send him to the hospital or something like that. And so like so much of the show
sure does.
Yeah, so much of the show is built around that idea, that knowing that like Bret's about to go into surgery, it's like, what do they do after this? Do they pivot? Where do they go here? I don't
remember. I know the Hart Foundation, they have the whole Canadian Stampede at some point. I think that's pretty close, right? Which is
I think so.
Good from what I remember. I don't think I've actually seen the match.
It's around the corner. It's around the corner for sure. It's not the next in your house. But it's around the corner.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's a mystery. It's a mystery what it is going forward in 97, but that's Revenge of the Taker, man. In Your House 14. If you had to grade the show from 0 to 100, what do you think you would throw at it? For context, I gave WrestleMania a 73.
WrestleMania 13? I feel that feels a little low.
Well, It's a one-match show.
I was gonna say that. Hold on, let me look at the card of WrestleMania 13 real quick.
Yeah,
that feels low for knowing what the main event of that show is.
here let me see if I can.
Oh yeah,
share my screen.
yeah. You're telling me you weren't moved by Rocky Maivia versus the Sultan?
Brother, if they didn't have Austin and Bret, that would have been a fucking 40.
Yeah, the street fight wasn't too bad.
No, there was some. Honestly, WrestleMania is not a terrible show. It's just a lot of nothing.
No, I'm looking at 73 makes sense. I'm looking at yeah,
I gave Royal Rumble a 58, which is the Rumble match itself is good, but the rest of the show is kind of lacking. I gave In Your House Final 4 a 60. I think that's that's all the WWF so far this year.
If I had to give a grade, immediately I'm thinking around the 50 mark. Is it not like in terms of the actual grade, but like, was it below or above 50 for me? Because it's like not a lot of great stuff, obviously.
Right.
But then it has a really good main event and a really great main event. But the rest of the card stinks, has a lot of DQ stuff. It's probably sub 50, maybe like a 45, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking the best thing about the show is that it was sub 2 hours.
Yes,
so
that's great.
If it was any longer, it would have been, I don't know, but
that's true. That is also true. Yeah, maybe like a 40, 45, somewhere in there. Like, it's not the worst show I've ever seen by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a lot of like dumb booking stuff, a lot of like bad wrestling, which, you know, it's the 90s. I'm not expecting every single match, you know. Sometimes nowadays I think like we all get like spoiled about every single match has the potential of being great. We're like back in the 90s, back in here, and even 97. No, that's not the case. At best, you're going to get 2 great matches. So, and like, I know like there's like, you know, business wise, the show didn't do well either. I don't know. Yeah, like a 40. I think that's somewhere around there. It makes sense.
I think that's, I mean, I think I might go a tad higher just based on Mankind and Taker.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Like Bret and Austin was good. Like we said, you know, DQ finish though. So I think maybe around 50, 52, maybe somewhere in there.
It is a good, it might be a really good line in the sand, like being directly at 50 of, is the future shows you watch better or worse than In Your House 14? We'll
have to wait and see.
It might be a good line for you.
Yeah. every wrestling match or wrestling show I watch from here on out.
Yeah. It's
better or worse than In Your House 14.
Yeah.
Hopefully most of them are better.
Yeah. What did it do better than the Revenge of the Taker? What was his fandom called? The creatures of the night.
Yeah. Were you a little creature?
Oh no. I was never a little creature of the night. I was
of the night.
I was an animal, I guess.
What?
The Batista. I was a fan of Batista. Oh. So I don't know. You'd have a fan club called the Animals or something.
The Animals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Road Warrior, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
Well, I'll tell you what's not a 50. I'll tell you what's a 100. And that's the Count Out, a wrestling network. Appreciate you, buddy, coming on, talking some old school wrestling. Where can everybody find you, listen to you, and all that good stuff?
Sure. Well, again, I do want to say thank you very much for having me on, Kyle. I know that you we had some scheduling issues. I know you purposely poured Mountain Dew all over your computer to back out yesterday.
Damn, I thought I could get away with it.
Nope. This guy's computer crashed yesterday. But I very much appreciate you making the time for having me on. You can find me on you can find me on Count Out Network. I run Count Out Network. We have a whole host of podcasts on the network. I am a part of Ring Post Radio, which is a show I do with Scotty Edwards every single week. It is 2 to 3 hours of weekly world wrestling conversation. I wish conversation started with a W. That would have been perfect. But it is every single week, every single Sunday morning at 9 a.m. is when we record a live stream on YouTube, our Count Out Wrestling YouTube channel. So I'm doing Ring Post Radio every week with Scotty. Great show. Check it out if you want to get that sort of up. If you're done with the retro, want some modern, you can check out Ring Post Radio. If you want that retro, I also do the ballot. Which obviously you were on last season talking about.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Talking about Kevin Owens. Sadly, immediately cut off the ballot. Did not make it.
Rats.
Immediately fell off. To be fair, I think he's kind of doing his best work now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe at the very least WWE. I think he's doing his best work now in WWE. So I get it. I get not like putting him in the Hall of Fame for that long because let's see how this plays out. But anyways, the ballot is basically a show that goes over first time nominees on the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. This season is not on the Patreon, is going to be fully available to everybody.
Nice. So
we already put the first episode out, which is about a Brazilian wrestler from the 70s called Ted Boy Marino, who is arguably a Hall of Famer, legitimate Hall of Famer that you don't know about. So if you want to learn a lot, I definitely recommend that. We have another episode out. When is this being published?
This will be out on February 12th.
February 12th. Ooh, the second episode might already be out. Let's see. Oh, it comes out the same day. So if you want to check out the ballot episode 2,
double header,
there'll be an episode about the trios team in CMLL, or I guess also AAA in Mexico, Los Infernales. If you want to learn about some Mexican wrestling legends. Ring Post Radio, the ballot, patreon.com/countupod. I got a lot of plugs. Give me a second.
You got a lot of spoons in the porridge.
I do.
I like it.
Patreon.com/countupod. It's a Patreon that I put a lot of work into. I have a series 1 month every month this year. I'm doing a series called Hustle Loyalty Retrospect. I think your audience would appreciate it. Every year we go over roughly 2 years of John Cena's career. Starting from when he's, started as a little babe to when he retires at the end of the year. The first episode is already out about, him growing up and up to basically right before he jumps into OVW. Episode 2 will be out by the time this comes out, I think next week on Patreon. Talking about his OVW time and his debut on SmackDown and how that goes for him. And yeah, it's a fun series. I think your audience will enjoy that sort of retrospect idea. And yeah, there will be a moment in time where we cross over, I think in 2004.
Yeah.
But
we're about there.
But for right now, we're talking 2001, 2002. But yeah, great time, great episode. I do a lot of shit. So go check it out. You can follow us. We're all on the socials, so you can follow us there. But patreon.com/countupod, Ring Post Radio, the ballot, and enjoy the rest of our shows on our lovely podcast network.
Whew, look at this guy over here, mover and shaker.
Woo!
This guy, he's the honky tonk man of the rockabilly.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, beat me over the head with a glass of water. I'm gonna need it.
This could be a thing you say now.
I'm parched. I'm parched. Yeah.
By the way, they had a pitcher of water out there, but they had no cups.
No. What JR does is he grabs the pitcher of water and just fucking chugs it. He chugs it in front of Vince.
He drinks it out of his hat.
That's actually, asshole. I said JR. That's a Vince power move. We can all agree. That is a Vince power move where it's a pitcher of water for him alone.
We make movies.
Where he just
the whole thing.
Just chugs the water. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, thank you again, Kyle, for having me on the podcast. Congratulations on your 5-year. No, it's a month old at this point.
Thank you.
But congratulations.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you. On how long have you been doing it?
Fuck, I don't know, man.
Too long.
Several years. I can say that much. I know Ring Post Radio is at least 3 or 4. I think. We started right around. We started.
So you got a lot of lifetimes to track. I see.
Yeah, we started around that, but I did podcasts way before that. I think sometime in 2019, 2020, 2019. I think is when we started. So I'll say that. So we're coming up on our 6th year, I guess. Or this is our sixth year. I don't know.
I don't know what time isn't real.
Nah.
Why don't you take us out with a rockabilly dance?
Sure. Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just stand up, and then I'll
okay, here we go. You got to see the feet, though. It's all in the feet.
What was his hands doing? It was just like this or something?
Yeah, something like it was smoking guns adjacent.
Like he was just doing like this for a little bit, and then two-stepping, like kind of like that. You can't see my feet at all, and I don't want to put that on the internet.
You got to pay for that.
Yeah, that's Patreon. The $10 tier on the Patreon is where you get feet, folks. That's what I'm saying on the show. That's how we're closing this.
Yep. Once again, thank you to Rye Guy from Count Out Wrestling for joining me on this show. It was a good old time with that handsome fella, Ryan. Definitely would love to have him on once again sometime in the future. But in the meantime, go check him out. All of his various platforms and social medias in the description below, Count Out Wrestling. And follow me. You know what the deal is. Hey, there's only one thing we got to do before we end this bad boy, and that's to point at Bartholomew. Hey, you son of a bitch, hit that jingle. WCW, ECW, WWF, who's the hardest promotion? Eric or Vince or Paulie? I think we can agree, though. Heck, Myers is the shit. Shaw indeed. Hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues. If you're watching on YouTube, you can visually follow along the scoreboard, all the hullabaloo, the points and whatnot. If you're listening in audio, I'll walk you through it as well. But as this point stands right now, and we'll get into all the points and what they are and whatnot, ECW is currently in the lead with 30 points. WCW in second with 21. WWF with 7. But a lot can change very fast, and let's see if anything changes. But first thing is first, we have to grade this show. So me and Ryan talked about this kind of theoretically at the end of the episode, but we're going to give the official score here. Revenge of the Taker. So we're grading on a scale of 0 to 100. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now is going to be the lowest score of the year so far. As of right now, Sold Out is a 52. That is currently the lowest. Is this worse than Sold Out, though? Now that I'm looking at it. I don't think they're that different. I will say that. I think it's maybe like a 2-point swing at the most between those two. Sold Out was a drag. The pacing of Sold Out was much worse, I would say. You know what? Now I'm thinking about it. Maybe this show was not the worst. Maybe Sold Out was worse. I think I'm going to throw a 53 at this. Let me type this out and see how it tastes. I think that's kind of fair. Dude, like I'm saying, like if that Mankind Taker match was not on this fucking show, or if it was like Sid versus Undertaker or something instead, this would be maybe in the 30s. But a genuine all-timer match. Bret and Austin was fun, save the finish. And it was short. It was short and painless, relatively. So there's something to be said about that. I'm gonna throw a 53 at it. I think that's fair. So now we go here, we refresh this. So the promotion with the highest average grade as of this point is still ECW, barely. ECW has an average grade of 72.67. WCW has an average grade of 72 flat, whereas WWF is 61. So we go here, we look at the overall scoreboard. ECW maintains those 15 points for having the best, highest average pay-per-view grade. Best TV. We're tracking WCW as the best. I'm inclined to agree. Raw isn't giving a lot at this point, man. The Kuwait stuff, the South Africa stuff, it was very muddy leading up to this pay-per-view. Maybe afterwards. In fact, I do know afterwards it gets a little better. I have, full transparency, I've seen some of the Raws after this show, and it does get better. But we're only looking up to this point, the point of the show. So we're April 20th. 1997. So I'm going to continue. I think WCW still has this because ECW still, like at this point, they had just had Barely Legal. So it's a lot of highlights from previous shows, which has value. But I think overall, just from like a creative standpoint, WCW is killing it right now for the most part. on TV. There's always something happening on WCW, and it's more engaging than the other two promotions as far as I'm concerned. So WCW maintains those 15 points. Best in ring. We're tracking WCW as the best right now. Well, it's not WWF. That's the thing. We're looking at this WWF show that we just covered, and did that influence anything? I wouldn't say it did. In fact, I think it reinforces it. There's a lot of good stuff at the top, but everything else is just ish. So WCW holds on to this one, I think. ECW is going to be in the conversation potentially next time we cover ECW. Or just maybe the next time we come up on here, period. Maybe the TV has some good stuff coming up. Don't know. But WCW holds on to those 10 points. Best out of ring. We're tracking ECW as the best. Now, WWF has a pretty good run of out of ring stuff after this, if I remember correctly, for the most part. But up to April 20th, I don't think so. ECW or WCW? ECW has really good promos. We got a lot of good stuff with Taz and Sabu and Bill Alfonso and RVD, like that whole thing. Terry Funk's the champion. Where does Raven fit in? ECW's kind of cooled off storyline wise, I would say, in the past couple months. Not a lot of consistency, I would say. I might throw this at WCW. Now I'm thinking about it. You got Ric Flair coming back, taking on the NWO. Kevin Green. You got Dean Malenko, Benoit, Eddie. You got a good story going there. You got some stuff with the Public Enemy and Harlem Heat. You got Sting. I'm changing this to WCW. Fuck it. So WCW steals those 10 points away from ECW and puts WCW in the lead. So now we move on to the best section. We look at a bunch of individual things and decide what is the best so far of the year. Best match so far. Bret Hart, Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. Nothing on this show is better than that. So yeah, that holds on to it. Best wrestler of the year so far. We're tracking Stone Cold. Now, this is in-ring, out-of-ring. This is kind of the whole package. So I think, yeah, I can't really justify giving it to anybody else. The guy in the running is DDP, but I think Stone Cold has a stronger catalog of matches, and it's arguable. I think his character is stronger than DDP is right now, but it's arguable. Ask me on a different day, I might give you a different opinion. But that's just how I feel right now. So I think Stone Cold holds on to that. No changes. Best character/storyline. We're tracking the Taz Sabu feud. Do we change this to Bret and Austin? Because that's evolved since the last time we looked at this. I think the next time we touch on WWF, which will be only a few weeks away, I think, it might transfer. The best character / storyline might move over to Stone Cold Bret Hart / Hart Foundation, whatever the hell. As of right now, I think Taz Sabu is still the strongest. And I say at this point in time, but it's really like throughout the year so far, what's the best? Does that make sense? Like, it's not like, I don't know how to make that make sense with words, but Taz Sabu, we're going to leave it there. Best segment of the year. We're tracking the Diamond Cutter from DDP to Scott Hall on Nitro. Anything on TV happen worthwhile? Bret, trying to think of what Stone Cold Bret Hart. Not a lot of significant stuff happened on the way here. Taker getting burned with the fireball. No, really. I don't know. Yeah, we're going to leave it. Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall. So no changes in the best section, but now let's go to the worst. Worst match of the year so far. We're tracking Undertaker versus Sid at WrestleMania 13. Was anything on this show worse? Here's the thing, right? Undertaker Sid, that is a main event of WrestleMania world title match. So the weight of that match comes into account. Like you could say mechanically, let's just say, for example, maybe Rocky Maivia versus what's his dick? Savio Vega. That's maybe a mechanically worse match, but the stakes of it were just not there. So it's not as detrimental, if that makes sense. So Sid Taker has a strong hold on this, I think. Like Rockabilly, Jesse James, it was just boring. I wouldn't say it was bad necessarily. I think Taker Sid still holds on to this. Worst wrestler of the year, we're tracking Prince Iaukea. Savio Vega makes a good case. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, that Nation, this iteration of the Nation, it was just Crush was the worst wrestler for a lot of this year on this list. You could throw like a Jesse James in there. Prince Iaukea, he's so, I don't know what it is about him. He's fucking sucks. We're gonna leave it at Prince Iaukea for now. Worst character / storyline, we're tracking Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson. Now, at this point in WCW, they're kind of backtracking on that feud a little bit. And like I've brought up before in previous episodes, it was a very short-lived thing. They had one little stupid match on Nitro, and the whole firing angle of Randy Anderson was silly. I don't see this being the worst of the year by the end of this year. I'll put it that way. You know what? We're going to change it right now. You know what the worst character / storyline so far is? Honky Tonk Billy Double J. Boom. WWF takes that -3 points away from WCW. Jesus Christ. Just uninteresting, archaic, not in tune with the audience. Not good enough wrestlers to overcome all of that. Nobody cares about Honky Tonk. Billy Gunn's okay. Jesse James stinks. Yeah, that is the worst character / storyline so far. Worst segment of the year, Miss NWO. Yeah. Again, I'll say it every time. I would be shocked if anything overtook this. Just so much time dedicated to it. Poorly produced, poorly executed, no stakes. No one cared. It was boring. It was just sloppy and dumb and wasted so much time. Killed the crowd. I mean, nothing's going to beat this. But yeah, so that being said, yes, it remains worst segment of the year. So with that being said, we had a few changes here. WCW overtook Best Out of Ring, and we had WWF overtake Worst Character / Storyline. So WCW made out well as a result of this WWF review. WCW now in the lead with 34. ECW with 20, and WWF with 4. As we approach, about a third of the year so far, a little past that. So things are heating up in the hardest promotion battle of 1996, but that's about all we got to say about that. And that's about all Daddy has for you guys today in general. You know what I'm saying? Unless you want to stick around, unless you want to hang out. What's up with you? How's life? How's the hemorrhoids? You know, I hope at least one person listening has hemorrhoids. And for a split second, they're like, holy shit, is he talking to me? How does he know? What do hemorrhoids feel like? I don't know if I've had hemorrhoids. I have a suspicion they might be flaring up. I'll tell you one thing about this bidet, right? Bidets are great, but sometimes it encourages you to just sit there for a while. You know, you got your Clash of Clans up. You're sitting there, you got your Clash of Clans. Give a squirt. And the thing is, when you give a squirt, or when you take a squirt, you gotta give a squirt. If you're still listening at this point, I think there's something wrong with you. I'll keep y'all updated on the hemorrhoids, though. If you made it to this point and you're on YouTube or on Spotify, just comment hemorrhoids and let me know that you made it this far. All right. I'm getting out of here. Appreciate you guys listening, watching, tasting, all that stuff. Have a blessed day. Mwah. I'm hard.
Yeah. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.